Okay, I've got an iPad Air 4th generation. As you can see, the screen's already been removed from this one, which makes it nice, easier to work on. And for some reason, this device seems to want to charge when it feels like it. So you might have to just take my word, because right now I'm getting nothing over here. But it was working off and on up until I decided to start recording this. So I'll show you what the port looks like under the microscope. And based on the way this thing kind of looks like it's burnt a little bit on the inside, let me flip it over here. I suspect that the port might actually be the issue. I've looked at the flex cable coming in here, and I did clean some debris out earlier, but I don't think that we've got any damage to the actual flex cable here. So that kind of makes it nice, because what we can do here, instead of pulling the whole motherboard out and replacing the flex cable, we can actually just replace the USB-C connector here on the bottom. So that'll take some of the work out of it. It's a little more difficult than a lot of charge port replacements, however, because it is USB-C and it does have 2 rows on the inside that need to be attached. So I wouldn't recommend this unless you've got a lot of practice with this type of thing already. But we'll start by preparing this for the repair. And like I said, I love the fact that we don't actually have to take this completely out of the housing. All we have to do is get this a couple screws out here, lift this up so that we have it exposed, and then we can desolder the old connector and put the new one in. So we're going to have a couple screws right here, need to come out. And of course, before we go too far, we do want to isolate the battery. And getting these up is always fun. So we'll start with some alcohol. And I might even go along this side too, just in case this ends up being particularly difficult. Because sometimes they just don't want to lift up. Yeah, this one's going to be hard to get under, so I'm going to start over here. Alright, we got underneath there a bit. I'll prop that up and block it. So now our battery is isolated, and then we can move on to getting some of these things out of the way. So I think if we just move this little sticker, or this rubber piece, it's probably not necessary. Let's do this. Might want to do this under the scope so you can see a little better. But we have a sticker here we're going to peel back, I think. Actually, all we're going to have to do is just peel this up a little bit. I think this antenna wire might be in the way though. So I'm going to very carefully disconnect this. And lift it off, and then that way all we have to do is kind of peel this up. So again, we'll get a little more rubbing alcohol inside here, make things easier. And I will probably, let's see, let's find a spudger here. Should be able to get under all of this adhesive. Just loosen it up. And actually, that is kind of attached underneath, so let's go ahead and pull this sticker off. Those aren't the tweezers I wanted. Set that aside. We'll open this up, and it looks like it already unplugged. That's okay. Kind of slid out, and then we'll go on top of that. Pull this back. And now what we want to do is just kind of insulate everything. Actually, I am going to take this off just in case the heat causes any issues with it. Peel this back to about here. And then we just need to get something underneath here to keep the heat from our hot air getting to the battery. So it doesn't matter what you use, but I prefer something that doesn't conduct. So we've got a block of wood here, and we will tape this down so it stays in place. And I might even stick a weight on here just to hold it. So what we're going to do is start by desoldering this, and then we'll get our new port, and I'll move over to the scope now so we can get a better look. Yeah, so the top side doesn't look terrible, but like I said, I did clean this already, so there may have been something that, I don't know what, could have damaged something under here. Anyways, maybe some corrosion inside here too, so let's go ahead and get this off and see what it looks like. Alright, so let's get some new solder on here while we're at it. Clean this up. Alright, and this is our old port. So I think what we had, it looks like something bridged right here. If you see that, you got some gunk inside here, and it kind of seems to have gotten between these two pins. So I think that is probably why we had issues, and of course that was not visible from the outside. So one thing I need to do is secure this a little better so it doesn't go sliding around, because the heat is going to make that tape pretty much worthless. So we'll stick a weight on here. Which is going to make it tricky to work around. But what I do like is that there's kind of a crease right here to keep this thing elevated, because we need our new port to sit down inside flush, And I think we might be able to do it right here, although I could just go over the edge of the surface that I'm working on. But you know, I think we're fine right here. Yeah, we should be able to get that on without any issues. I may pre-solder these just to be safe, because this is kind of a headache and I don't want to have to do it twice. I want to make sure that these things stay on, but then again, I've got quite a bit on these pads. To pre-solder or not to pre-solder? Yeah, I think we should be okay. Let's give it a shot. Hopefully you don't have to do it twice. All right, let's flip it. And we'll get the back side. Oh, it's tough to reach around here. Right. I think that's going to do it. Let's see what it looks like on the other side. Okay, so we've got plenty of solder flowed all the way through. Let's plug this thing in and see what happens. And there we go. We are charging 15 volts, 1.5 amps, and I will flip this around just to make sure. It's charging both directions. Okay, why are you doing that? Okay, so if we have directional charging, that means we did not quite get everything flush. Yeah, so we're only getting charging one direction. That means those back pins most likely did not sit down straight or make sufficient contact. So I'm going to see if I can fix that without completely removing the port. Alright, so as you can see, we got one connector here that got nothing, no contact whatsoever. And that's interesting because this looks like it pulled the pads off, but it didn't. So we'll go ahead and pre-solder these. Let's clean this up again. Next time we will know. Let's It's much safer to just add some solder on here. And we'll try one other thing different here. Get this off the edge. Although, then we have to protect what's underneath, so... And either way seems fun. Alright, so worth noting here, when you finish up, if you choose to do just the port on this, make sure that you get some 99% rubbing alcohol and clean up the areas where it's actually going to plug in here, because I had a little flux on there, didn't realize it, and that was giving me some funny results. It didn't look like it was charging most of the time again, but now that we've got this all cleaned up, let's grab a cable. And this time, when we plug it in, and this thing may actually be powered on by now, I'm not sure, because I did hear the startup tone just a second ago. We've got a nice clean connection there. We're pulling 1.5 amps here, and if we flip it over, also important, we are charging in this direction as well, although it's doing it 0.8 for some reason right now. I don't know if that means that the display went to sleep or what, but okay, now we're going back up. So 1.5 amp pull, 15 volts on both sides. I'll put this back together and call it fixed.